when he heard on the newspaper that the jellyfish girls were having a party. And they on the ocean, they were famous because the dad made a lot of parties. And the parties were loud music, they had elegant suits, and they had a lot of gifts. It was their birthday. So the shark liked one of those jellyfish girls, so he invited his two friends, the turtle and the dolphin. But they forgot that they needed something to bring to the party. So the shark went to buy a suit. And my suit, the tuxedo had like little dots and spots. And then he got some seaweeds, and then he bought some gel to put his hair on. and then the turtle brought a rock. And the dolphin got a football helmet that he found that he was swimming. So they went to the party, and the music was loud. It was a big building with full of jellyfishes. All the animals were there. There was loud music. They had the jellyfish were dancing, and they were drinking, and it was really fun. So, and then the turtle was really impressed, so he put his rock on the floor and he went inside. When the dolphin didn't saw the rock, he fell. He threw his helmet, and the helmet landed on his shark's head. He couldn't get it off. He was all screaming, "Oh my gosh, I want to get in the party. I don't want to miss it." And then the sea girl saw that he was right there, the jellyfish girl, and then she shocked him, and now he was screaming, "Oh!" And then he got up, and then he pulled his hair off and gave the seeds to the girl. The girl kissed him, and then the shark fell, and his head landed again on the floor.
Very good. 5 claps and snaps. Okay, so now, what each of you is going to do is exactly what Christian just did. I want you to look at your story and find one moment that you can add detail to. One thing in your story you can describe with more detail. I want you to look at your story right now and circle that one thing that you are going to describe with detail. Okay? You've got 1 minute to look at it, circle it, and start thinking about the details you might add. And then we're going to retell our stories. Okay, so you've identified the thing you're going to describe. Hopefully you've started thinking about how you will describe it. I'd like you to retell your story to your partner. And this time I want to see everybody doing that active, good listening we were just talking about, with being quiet, eye contact, maybe doing a little nodding when you like something. You could read along if you want. But we're going to do it right now with adding descriptive detail to one element of your story, okay? You've got a couple minutes to do that. Go. No, but you won't look at your paper. We're doing it from memory, just like Christian. Papers I want to tell you one thing I saw. So as I was walking around and turning your papers over and urging you to do what Christian did and tell your story from memory, some of you guys were a little freaked out. You know, like, I can't do it, I can't remember, oh my gosh. Yet when you tried, I saw you succeeding. And one thing I saw that might have helped, and maybe you can try next time you work with Jasmine, is they would, I saw partners swap papers. So when one partner was telling their story, their partner had it in front of them, so if they forgot something or said, wait, what happens next, they could prompt them and give them a little nudge. That's fine. This isn't about memorizing, right? This is just about telling your story like Christian did. You notice how he used his hands, he described things, he had some dialogue, he added in that descriptive detail. I saw all of you doing that, but as soon as you put your paper down, it's so much easier to just tell your story, right? This isn't about memorizing it word for word. It never is going to be, okay? This is just about learning how to tell stories. So next time you work with Jasmine and you write your new story, think about the descriptive detail you added into your story this week and try to add it into your story as you write next time, okay? That way you don't have to go back and add it, you can do it while you write, okay? We're gonna do something right now that's gonna take a little bit of coordinating. Here's what I wanna do. We're going to create a circle in the center of the room, okay? What that means is these two tables are going to come together. These two tables are going to turn. This table is going to come in, and this table is going to come in. So we're making kind of a square, right? With benches around the center to sit in. While we do that, I want someone from each of your tables to collect your papers and put them on the table over there, okay? I want to do this as quickly and safely as possible, so everyone needs to help. Ready? Go.
This is a very important part of what we do, is creating this story circle and then engaging you all in a wonderful storytelling session. I'm going to start by telling you a story today, and we do this every session we're here. Who knows the story of the Frog King? Even if you think you know something about the Frog King, raise your hand. Anyone? Yeah, guesses are fine. That's fine. I'd love to know, what do you know about the Frog King? They had a pond.
And like, there was like the water, but I think the Frog King did all the toilet.
The Frog King gave who a tail?
Like his frog.
All right. Gave another frog a tail. All right.
He like admired it by the pond by just looking at it reflection all day.
Okay.
Nobody could get any water.
Okay.
So the Frog King took it away.
Okay.
And they said that's why frogs learn.
Okay, that's why frogs don't have a tail anymore. Interesting. I don't know that I've heard that version. That's awesome. Anyone else heard the Frog King or know anything about this story? What's that?
I've read the story, but I can't remember.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you The Frog King by the Brothers Grimm. Did anybody know the Brothers Grimm? Raise your hand if you don't. All right, good. Yeah, because they made a movie recently. Okay. The Frog King. Once upon a time, there was a king. He had a bunch of lovely daughters. In particular, his youngest daughter was very beautiful. She was really beautiful. I mean, even the sun would look down on her and be like, wow, she's really beautiful. Very, very good-looking lady. And then right off their property, there was a forest that she liked to go to and hang out in. Especially when it was hot, she liked to go hang out under some trees where it was really shady. There was a well. She liked to hang out by the well where it was nice and cool. She had this beautiful golden ball that she used to play with all the time. This was given to her by her father. Okay, it was gorgeous. It was even better looking than she was. And the son would look down and be like, that ball is even better looking than she is. And she is beautiful. She played with it all the time. One day, super hot outside, she's hanging out by her favorite spot in the well. She's throwing the ball up. Throwing the ball up. She's kind of bored, thinking about something to do, throwing it up, and then it comes down, like, but just sort of out of her reach. And it hits the rim of the well and starts to do this, and then whoosh, falls down into the well. She's like, oh my God. And she runs and looks down the well, and she can just see it falling all the way down. And she loses her mind. She's like, ah, my ball! I lost my ball down the well. I don't know what to do. It's just like running around, like taking a stick, like trying to just get the ball out. And she's like, oh my God. And sits there and starts bawling her eyes out. At the creek right next to her, or behind her, I should say, she hears this little like, she's like, what's that? Turns around, and she sees a big ugly frog, big ugly head, poking his eyes up under the water, and he's like, princess? And she's like, what are you? She's like, princess, why are you crying? And she's like, because I lost my ball down the well. My ball fell down the well. And he's like, well, I can go get it for you. But you have to make me a promise. And she's like, what? Anything. I'll do anything if you could get my ball. What do you want? Money? Jewels? Do you want a crown? Do you want that? I got this pretty scarf. And she's just rattling off all the things that her dad could give him. He's like, no, I don't want any of that stuff. What I want is for you to be my companion and promise to share your food and your beverages and your sleeping bed. I get to share all of these things with you, and I will go get your ball. And she's like, fine, just do it, whatever, just do it. And he's like, okay. And he shoots down the wall, and she's like, yeah, right. There is no way I'm going to give him any of those things. And he pops back up. He's got the ball. Right there, here you go, princess. She's like, yes, my ball! And just starts booking away back towards her castle. And he's like, but princess, wait a minute, I can't run as fast as you. I can't. She's like, ah! Shoots in the door, right? Fast forward to later that evening, it's dinner time. And she's sitting there with her kingly father, and he's got a bunch of friends over, officers and courtiers, and lots of people to impress in the community, you see. And they're all eating dinner. Isn't this delicious? Yes. And then you hear this little far away, and there's a little It's just like, oh my God. King's like, what is that? Something at the door. And she's like, no, it's nothing. And she's like, maybe if we just ignore it, it'll go away. And then she's like, fine, I'll see who's at the door, Dad. Don't worry about it. Just walks up to the door, opens it, slams it on it, goes back, maybe if I ignore it, it'll go away. And finally he's like, darling, who's at the door? Open the door. And she's like, it's this stupid frog. I made him this promise that if he to explain the whole story about how she lost the ball, and I just wanted the ball back. And then he says, well, the king says you have to let him in. You made a promise. And she's like, oh, but you made a promise, darling. And she's like, fine. Opens him up. And he said, princess, I'm hungry. I would like to share your yummy dinner. And she's like, oh, but this is disgusting. And the king's like, but you made a promise, darling. And she's like, oh, she pulls up a chair. He's like, I need help getting up on the chair. And she's like, like reaches down and picks him up, puts him in the chair. She's like, I'm hungry. She's like, fine, and like just spoons over some chicken for him and some peas and stuff. And he's eating that. He's like, I'm thirsty, princess. And she's like, but you can't drink from my. I'm thirsty, princess. King's like, but darling, you made a promise. And she's like, ugh. And she hands it over to him, and he's like, slimy fingers, and takes a drink. He's like, yeah, I'm tired, princess. I'm sleepy. I would like to sleep in your bed. And she's like, no! This is the last straw! I'm not letting this disgusting thing. And the king's like, but darling, don't embarrass us in front of everyone else. And she's like, as he reads his eyes, picks him up. It's like, okay, we're going to bed now. And they walk up the stairs. The king's like, good night, darling. And she drops the frog on the floor when she gets to her room, and she's like, okay, you can sleep in the corner. But you cannot sleep on my... But you made a promise, princess, that I get to sleep in your bed. And she's like, you know what I think of promises? And she grabs the frog and like whips him over her head and hurls him against the wall. But then something fantastic happened. The horrible act of violence caused this frog to turn into a dashing young prince. And he looks at her and he's like, hey. And she's back here like, oh my. And then she's like, I think I'll decide to go ahead and keep my promise now. And so they fall asleep. The next day, you hear a little, and she gets up, she looks outside, the princess sleeping, and she looks outside and she sees 8 horses pulling a chariot. And Heinrich gets out of the coach and he's like, the king! The king! I understand that the king has been changed back from a frog. You see, the king had this great friend named Heinrich. And Heinrich they were super good friends, right? And once he found out that the king had been turned into a frog by this wicked old witch, he was really upset. He got very sad. And he had these iron bands like placed around his heart, like lock them around his heart. So, and he was like, I'm not going to let the iron bands go unless I get my friend back. Well, it turns out he gets his friend back, and Heinrich's like, King, it's so wonderful to see you. Come into the coach. Who's this lovely lady? It's like, this is my new wife. She's like, I'm his new wife. And they're like, come with us and rule the kingdom. So they get into the coach and they start driving away, and they're holding hands and they're very sweet and they're happy. And then you start to hear these like snapping, and then the king starts to think that something's going wrong with the coach. She's like, the coach is breaking down. What's going on? Heinrich, what's going on with the coach? Heinrich's like, oh, it's the iron bands in my heart. They're breaking open because I'm so happy. And you're so happy. And everyone lived happily ever after.
All right, 5 claps in the snap. All right. Someone tell me, first of all, what did you expect the ending was going to be? Were you thinking as you listened that something was going to happen? Yeah.
I thought he was going to leave her because she was mad.
She thought he was going to leave her because she was violent to him. That's a good guess. What else did we think might happen?
I thought that at the ending, she would lose her ball again, and then it happened all over. This ugly frog would come over.
Oh, so you were expecting sort of the story to cycle around and happen all over again. Anyone else? Anyone know the story of Beauty and the Beast? Yeah? How did she revive the beast at the end and turn him into a prince? What does she do? Yeah.
Kiss him.
She kisses him, yeah? That's pretty common in a lot of stories, a lot of fairy tales, right? The ugly beast gets turned into a prince by a kiss. How many of you thought maybe that might happen in this story? Did anyone think that might be the ending? Because when I heard the story, that's what I thought. Yeah, you thought maybe a kiss and he'll be revived. But what really happened? She didn't kiss him, right? What did she do?
She threw him at a wall.
Yeah, she threw him at a wall, she slammed him into a wall, and he's revived. How many of you think that she deserves him at the end? Raise your hand if you think the princess deserves this prince. Nobody. Okay, someone tell me why she doesn't deserve him then.
Because she was treating him like nobody wanted him or anything.
So she was treating him like she didn't want him and nobody wanted him. What else?
She wasn't keeping her promise.
She wasn't keeping her promises. Who made her keep her promises? Her father? Yeah. Why do you think he made her? Why do you think he just didn't say, oh, it's just a frog and who needs to keep a promise to a frog? Why do you think he made her keep her promise? Anyone want to guess? What's a thought? Gretchen, why do you think?
I think to do the warrior ruler who was loyal and he wanted his daughter to keep his promise. That's the point I guess. So he didn't want the other people to think like he was a selfish something and
Yeah, so he wanted to set an example and make her set an example? Okay. Yeah?
I think that he thought maybe he was going to make her princess, queen of the kingdom. So he wanted to make sure that she was always honest and kept her
Oh,
promises.
so he's setting